Good morning, first grade. All right, we have another Wit and Wisdom lesson today, and I'm excited because we're going to talk about something called idioms first. And I always think that these are, fun, interesting. We'll get to that in just a minute. And then we're also going to talk about the structure of an opinion paragraph, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But we're also going to try a new technology tool called Edpuzzle, where as you're watching this video, you will be watching it in Edpuzzle. So if you want to, if you haven't watched the quick little demonstration video of how to use Edpuzzle, you might want to do that first. But you'll just watch the video as you normally would through Edpuzzle, but at certain points, you'll see that the video will stop and it will ask you just a couple of quick questions as you're listening to the video. So it's just a way that you can kind of share your thinking as you're watching one of these learning videos, and not necessarily have a student response page and have to respond with something on Seesaw. So if you're having any trouble with that, or it's not working for you with the Edpuzzle added part, just let me know, and I'll also include just the regular link to the regular YouTube video of today's lesson, just in case you're having trouble. But I thought, it might be exciting to try something a little new today and see how that works. But again, if it is not working or you're having any trouble with it, please don't worry about it. I just wanted to try it out, try something new. You could just watch this video, as you normally would on using the YouTube link. Okay, but reach out with any questions. Okay, so to the first part, an idiom. Have you ever heard, I know that might sound like kind of a funny word, have you ever heard the expression, and I'm pretty sure that we've talked about this because we had a joke about this, but have you ever heard the expression, it's raining cats and dogs, right? I think the joke was something like, what happens when it's raining cats and dogs, and it was something along the lines of be careful you don't step in a poodle, right? Maybe some of you remember that, but have you ever heard that expression, it's raining cats and dogs? Yeah, and when you hear that, what does it make you think of? Yeah, right, it makes you think that it is raining really, really hard. It's raining really, really hard. We don't actually think that there are cats and dogs falling from the sky, but we know that when we say that, it means it's raining really, really hard. This expression or this phrase is an example of what's called an idiom. And an idiom is when we say one thing but it means something else. Right? So it's literally actually not raining cats and dogs. There are not actually, although it's pretty funny to think about if it were happening, there are not actually cats and dogs falling from the sky. But we know that that means it's raining really hard. So there were a couple of idioms in Cinderella that I just wanted to quickly talk about because I think it's kind of a fun aspect or part of our language that we just kind of come to learn, that these expressions say one thing, but they actually have a different meaning. All right, so in this part, it says, he was tied hand and foot to his wife's apron strings. They're talking about the father, Cinderella's father, that she couldn't complain to him because he was tied hand and foot to his wife's apron strings. Now, do you think he literally had his hands and feet connected to her apron? What might that mean? What do you think? Yeah, that he just was, very much kind of loyal and connected with his wife, meaning that he couldn't really do what he wanted to do. He kind of did whatever his wife told him to. He was just, very close with her, and he did what she asked, but he didn't actually have his hands and feet tied to her apron string. So that's one example of an idiom. We also hear, he certainly had fallen head over heels in love with the owner of the slipper. Had fallen head over heels. So that's another example of an idiom, head over heels. Was the prince actually like falling where he's doing somersaults and his head is going underneath of his heels and he's like turning all around? Yeah, no, what does that really mean? Yeah, it just means that he so very much loved or liked Cinderella, head over heels. He just was completely, you know, in love or in like with her, right? Yeah, that's another example. All right. So those were just a few examples of idioms, and I'm sure we could probably think about it that there are some others. So I looked up a few other idioms, and maybe you've heard these. I don't know if you've ever heard someone say it costs an arm and a leg, but that would be an example of an idiom. You're not actually having to pay for something with an arm and a leg, but we know that that means in reality, for real, that means it costs a lot of money. Have you ever heard? And actually, we've used this idiom: "Don't judge a book by its cover." Don't judge a book by its cover. They're not actually, when we say that, we're normally not actually talking about the book, but we're talking about a person. To not judge someone by what they look like on the outside, but to get to know them as a person on the inside. Just like we don't want to judge. It kind of comparing, making the connection between the cover of a book and what the person looks like on the outside. Or what about one last one? You hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head. Have you ever heard that one before? Yeah, that means that you got something exactly correct. You hit the nail on the head. It's not actually talking about someone hammering in a nail, but that you answered something completely correct. Like you got it exactly correct. All right, so those were just some examples of idioms. And a funny story about it's raining cats and dogs. One of Kara's friends this year for Halloween, she dressed up and she wore a raincoat and rain boots and she had an umbrella. And her mom had helped her like sew on a bunch of little stuffed animal cats and dogs, and she was going as the idiom "It's raining cats and dogs." That was her Halloween costume this year, so that made me think of it. But see if you can think of any idioms, or if you notice any, you hear anyone say any. All right. So, anyways, I just think it's kind of fun to think about some of the different ways we say things. All right. So now we're going to kind of shift gears and switch on to the next topic, where we're going to talk about the structure of an opinion paragraph. And I know that we talked a lot this year about the structure or the format, the way we write an informative paragraph, right? Do you remember that? We had the sandwich organizer that told us we should have our topic sentence first as our piece of bread. Then we have our facts and details in the middle. That's like the meat and the cheese. And then the conclusion sentence as is at the end, and that's the bottom piece of bread. Well, an opinion statement or an opinion paragraph is set up in a similar way. It's a little bit different, but a similar way. And, we'll be talking about why that's important to organize our paragraphs in this way. Just like when we talked about it with the informative paragraph, it was important to do that to help us as the writer to organize our thoughts. It was important as the reader, or important for the reader so that they could follow along and understand. All right, so when we think about an opinion paragraph, and we talked a little bit about what opinions are in the last one of our previous lessons, and what's the difference between an opinion versus a fact. But an opinion, you can think of it very much like either a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or you'll also see, and you'll see in your workbook and in our reading material, our wit and wisdom material, something that looks like this, right? And that looks like, what does that look like? Yeah, an Oreo cookie. So you can always think of Oreo cookies and opinion paragraphs, right? That's a great pair. But the Oreo cookie will help us to remember the parts and the structure of an opinion paragraph, or a peanut butter and jelly, if you want to think of it as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So let me show you what I mean. The first part, or the top piece of the cookie, this top part of the Oreo cookie, is always the opinion, right? And if we actually look at this, we can see that it can spell Oreo. But anyways, the opinion it's what you think. So here's an example. I think the stepsisters are mean. This, again, you may be thinking obviously this is true, but that actually is not a fact. That's an opinion. I think the stepsisters are mean. That's the top piece of bread of your peanut butter and jelly, or the top part of the Oreo cookie. Then the next two parts, so the cream filling of an Oreo cookie or the peanut butter and jelly of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, are the reasons to support your opinion, right? If we say something, I believe this, and you should just believe me because I said so, do you think that's a really good, convincing argument? Yeah, probably not. But when we can give people reasons for why we believe that better supports or reinforces, which means, kind of helps to support our opinion and might help someone to agree with us if we give them good reasons. So here are the two reasons. This is also related to us talking about using evidence to support our central message. This is very similar. We're looking for evidence to support our opinion. They called Cinderella names. That's one way, that's one thing that happened that can support the stepsisters being mean. They made her do all of their chores. That's another reason, right? The better, having more than one reason and having, strong reasons are really helpful to support an opinion. Okay, so we have the opinion as the top piece of bread or top sandwich cookie. The peanut butter and jelly or the cream in the middle are the reasons to support our opinion. And then the last part, the bottom piece of bread, the bottom piece of the sandwich cookie, is where we restate or retell our opinion. It works similar to a topic sentence and a conclusion, but you're just telling the reader your opinion again. That is why I think the stepsisters are mean. So you're giving your opinion kind of one last time, saying, hey, can you agree with me? I gave you my opinion. I gave you two reasons, and here's my opinion one more time. And that's how we structure an informative paragraph. And those are the parts. And like I said, the reason to do this is, having that organized, kind of clear, this is my opinion, this is why, and why you should agree with me, and this is my support to support my opinion. And then I'm going to tell you my opinion one more time, just to make sure, you know what my opinion is. And that's how we structure an opinion paragraph. Okay, so we will be working a lot more with this and working together to put an opinion paragraph together and find the parts and put them in order. So if you want to, again, you can go back to Seesaw and just submit this. And if you were able to get into Edpuzzle and answer the questions, that's awesome. If not, no problem. And we'll keep talking about this. And remember, opinion, state your opinion, two reasons, restate or retell your opinion. All right, I'll talk to everybody soon. Bye.